I'm going live in just a minute here.
Thank you. So, as you can imagine, 1,500 of your closest friends takes a lot of courage to get up and present. So great job, Doctor. All right, huge round of applause. And our final speaker for today, Danielle. I always love that name because I can remember her name, right? I bet you never get that. So a tremendous treat. It was a couple weeks ago, we were in San Diego at a wellness summit, and we got to work very closely together. But a tremendous teacher, leader, very smart, working on her doctorate right now as we speak. So a lot to share and excited to hear.
Thank you.
And her specialty is on brain health. So what are we going to speak about?
Brain health.
All right, take it away.
Hey everybody, let's just address the elephant in the room. My name. Okay, so that's my maiden name. I'm not married. My parents, yes, they're weird, but they're very loving as well. So my mom always wanted to name her daughter Danielle, and then she met my dad, and was like, oh crap. So they put it as my middle name, so I don't go by my first name though, so it's my middle name. But here, just in my defense, my aunt, she married a guy, and then they got divorced, but they had a child, and she changed his name back. So she had named him Adam, and now his name is Adam Adams. You can look him up on Facebook. And then my other aunt did it on purpose, same family, okay, like I said, we're weird. They're weird, I'm not, but she named her daughter Brooklyn, and last name is Brooksby. So not as bad as Danielle, Daniel, Adam, Adams, but hey, you know, it makes it easy to remember, right? And that's really what the key is here. I remember when John Harrison was talking to Dr. Hill, and he was like saying, I just love her name. It's like the best thing for marketing. And I was like, oh, finally a good reason for my name. So let's go into brain health. This is my specialty. I'm an LCSW, which means I'm a licensed clinical social worker and doctor of clinical psychology student. And so I'm doing my doctorate right now. I've actually been doing it for many years. I started doing doTERRA and I was like, ooh, this is more fun. So I do my doctorate on the side. So anyway, but I am in a great class right now, and it's called Positive Psychology. It's all about emotions. And I have access to research articles that I'm studying the essential oils, how they affect the brain. It's a study that I've termed in my doctorate called psychoaromatology. You can write that down. I made it up, but I talk about it at hospitals, and doctors are like, oh yeah, psychoaromatology. I'm like, yeah, it's just essential oils, but hey, it is awesome. So that's a little about me from San Diego. How many San Diegans do we have here? Yeah? Awesome. Love San Diego. I'm actually born or raised in LA for when I was a kid, then moved to Utah, and then back to San Diego about 20 years ago. And honestly, I've been driving up here this morning. I was kind of mourning a little bit because we lost our chargers. Chargers are now coming up here. I can't tell you. Oh, someone's clapping. I can't tell you. Like, it's so rough. But I will come up and visit them, and we're hoping they'll do so bad up here that everybody will just like, get rid of them, send them back to San Diego. We'll be like, yes, our loser Chargers, right? So I'm a big football fan. But anyway, I'm going to talk to you about a year ago. We talked a little bit about it already with Emily Wright. We were in Nepal. I got to go on that amazing trip with her and her family. Oh my gosh, how many of you guys want to go on a humanitarian trip? Yes, do it. It's just the most amazing thing. And I remember when I was working full-time, 8 to 5, and I was working with high school teens and suicide, and I loved it, but I just remember going, oh, I want to go on humanitarian trips, but I made, I had no time off and hardly had any money, right? So anyway, oh, this clicker is fun, wow. Okay, so we just went 2 slides. So I got to Nepal, and amazing people. I met a whole bunch of good friends in there from doTERRA. This is us at the Wintergreen Distillery. And we got to cut down wintergreen, and everybody who was strong, which was not me, got to put the wintergreen on their back and walk down, and I just watched them ruin their necks, and it was really, really fun. But anyway, then we got to go to the village, and the little village was just incredible. I mean, broken down school that we got to physically haul cement, which I had never done in my life before, but was really fun, sanded tables and chairs and painted them. Well, right when we arrived, this huge procession of people just were there ready to greet us. They put red crap all over our foreheads, and it was just amazing. And with rice, I mean, they stuck rice even. It was really interesting, but beautiful. And anyway, these teenage girls found me, and they just linked arms with me. And it's interesting because I have always worked with teens. That's my specialty. I love my teenagers. And these girls just sought me out for some reason, linked their arms. We knew no language of each other except for they knew one word. And that one word was friends. They were so cute. So they looked at me and they linked arms. They're like, friends. And yeah, friends. So the whole week that we're there, they'd come find me and they're like, friend. I'm like, hi, I'm a friend. So that was the limit of our speaking. So why do you think, though, why do you think we could communicate and just feel this bond with these beautiful teenage girls that you see up here? It's our hearts, our emotions. Those are a real energy, and I'm going to talk about emotion today. Let's do a little brain anatomy review. So I'm not going to go into too much depth, but frontal lobe, okay, obviously in the front, right? So frontal lobe is your executive functioning. It's the home of your personality. It's how you organize, you plan. It's how you respond with your behavior. It's everything that you're literally logically thinking, basically. Your temporal lobe, that is more of your auditory and visual processing. Parietal lobe or parietal lobe, they say it two different ways. So if we have a lot of medical professionals, we'll be like, why is she saying it wrong? I'm like, I don't know which way is right. So parietal lobe is where it's like you process pressure and touch. Occipital lobe, the back of the head, is the smallest of the four lobes. And it's where it's your visual cortex, where you process every image from your eyeballs, basically. You just command your eyeballs. And then the cerebellum, it coordinates motion and balance. So that's how I know, not to get my heel stuck up in here, or, love you, girl. She was so darling. So anyway, that coordinates motion and balance. Can I just tell you a quick story? So it has to do with the cerebellum, sort of. I've told this story before on stage because it's just too embarrassing not to tell. I was 3 years old. How many of you guys are from the 80s and had underoos? Please stand up if you had underoos. Yeah. And then the rest of you are like, what? Under what? Okay, so we had these really cool underoos. Look them up. And they had superheroes on them. I don't know why they're out of style because they were so cool. And now with all those superhero movies, would your kids not go nuts wearing these underoos? Oh my gosh. So I had Wonder Woman. Okay, talk about a good cerebellum. That girl can, I remember she could, spin around, sing Wonder Woman, and on the commercial, who watched the Wonder Woman show in the 70s and 80s, right? She would spin around, sing Wonder Woman, and be able to land on her feet all of a sudden in her, American Wonder Woman costume. And so little 3-year-old me is like, well, I have a cerebellum. No, I didn't think that. But I did think, I could do that. So I found, luckily we didn't have a balcony, but I found the tallest peak that my little 3-year-old body and my underoos could climb up on, and it was the arm of the chair, or the couch. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to spin around, and I'm going to land on my feet like a cat. And I did not, but I spun around, and I sang Wonder Woman, and I ended up in the hospital. That's the last thing I remember. Anyway, split my head open in the back of the head, got stitches. I wouldn't stop screaming, so they put a lead jacket on me. So, needless to say, it was traumatic. But that is basically the function of our cerebellum. I didn't have a good one at that time. We're going to go a little more into that. Okay, brainstem, which functions to process automatic things in your body. And that is like your breathing. Okay, so your limbic system I'm going to go into next. So you have to keep up with me. I talk fast. And so limbic system is in between the cerebrum and the brainstem, and it communicates directly with the frontal lobe. And what does our limbic system do? Processes what we know. Okay, I did click it. The heart of our emotions. Okay, so the limbic system is basically the center where all of our emotions are processed. There we go. There it is. There she is. So anyway, this is really key to understanding, because is there a direct way you can really access your brain, your frontal lobe?
Yeah, through oils.
Only way is through your olfactory system. And that is amazing. You can just inhale something and it'll go directly to the limbic system. We're going to go into that. So let's talk about emotions. So this is actually, this graph right here, I took from one of my doctorate books and I made it prettier because it was really ugly in there. And so I made it really pretty here. But this is actually what they have found. There's 4 categories or 4 factors that contribute to emotions. So you've got cognitions, biology, behavior, and sociocultural. I'm going to go into cognitions and biology today. And when you look at cognitions, okay, that's your positive and negative, and your meaning, your perspective, and then your neurotransmitters and hormones and genetics into your biology. So let's go into those. So positive and negative emotions. We all have positive and negative emotions. And it doesn't mean, so I want you to understand, like this is something, I had this aha moment when I was studying this, is if you have negative emotions, does that mean you're bad? No, totally normal. Negative emotions are part of your growth. It's part of becoming who you are, and they have found that a healthy person has at least 3-to-1 with positive to negative emotions. So in an fMRI study that they did, they found that with they put someone in an MRI, sorry, it was an fMRI, they put them in and they did the negative word no, and within less than 1 second they showed the person the word no, and what happened was they saw that the brain released a whole surge of stress-producing hormones and neurotransmitters that interrupt logic, communication, and behavior, and lots of other things in our brain that help us function clearly. So those stress hormones, there we go, that's what happens with them. So what did they find with positive emotions? It canceled all that out. It puts the brain in harmony. So when we have negative thoughts, or someone curses at you with the F word and the finger on the freeway, like that happened to me yesterday, and I did not cut her off, but she does that, those negative emotions cause this release in your brain, right? So when you can just think, and so I had to actually clear that energy. I was like, okay, it's okay, I love myself, I am not what she called me, So anyway, those things do help your brain calm back down. So let's talk about when we have experiences and when we have thoughts, what we foster and put energy into does grow and does become more solid of a belief in our brain. Who in here is a mathematician? Anybody? I'm not. Oh, we got somebody. I love you. Okay, so you're going to love this next part. I found this. Okay, I have to go to the next slide first. Fibonacci. Who knows Fibonacci? Right? Awesome. So Fibonacci sequence. Yay, I love you guys. You're so excited. So Fibonacci sequence is a number sequence that they have found that is part of a unit of measurement of growth in many, many things. In human beings, in let's see, I gotta make this go right. Plants. So that's the exact same measurement in plants, in cell division in the human body, in our DNA molecules as well. Galaxies have the exact same Fibonacci measure of sequence, and many other things. I couldn't resist. It was so funny. I searched Fibonacci and that came up. I'm like, huh? Awesome. Okay, so for those of you who are watching video recording, it's Trump. So when your head grows, all of us, with our growth, it is actually measurable in the Fibonacci sequence. Guess what else they have found in MRI studies that are measurable with the Fibonacci sequence measurement? Thoughts. Isn't that interesting? They're seeing that MRI, that our thoughts. So what we foster absolutely grows and strengthens neural patterns. And that's why it's important to strengthen those neural patterns of emotion. So when we talk about positive and negative meaning and putting perspective, right? That means we have negative thoughts. You can use, like we're going to talk about essential oils in a minute, of course, and do things to actually put positive thoughts back in. Meaning and perspective. That's the optimism versus the pessimism, right? That's the faith versus the fear type emotion. I want to tell you the story of this lady that I heard her speak, and she was born as a failed attempt of an abortion, and because of the abortion, she actually was born with cerebral palsy. And I was listening to her speak, and she said something that blew me away. She was on stage in front of a whole bunch of people, and she's walking with her cerebral palsy, and she just said, so softly and kindly, she goes, I've been so blessed to be given the gift of cerebral palsy. And I'm like, what? That was so amazing to hear her perspective and the meaning she has been able to find from what I would have thought, or what most people may have thought would have been such a horrible challenge or something. She's put so much of a blessing, and she's become a big speaker for people with cerebral palsy. And I love that, putting perspective. I'm going to share a little personal that from her doing that, it made me really analyze like 3 of the most difficult things in my life that I've had to deal with. And I started shifting my thinking. And I started to, in my prayers and in my thoughts, I started saying, wow, what a blessing. And I started trying to look for the blessings for those trials, like abuse from it as a child, being still, single and 40. Like these things that I thought, oh, what's wrong with me, I was like, wow, what a blessing. I've been given. And when you can look at it that way, you learn why God has put you on that path instead of why, questioning why you're here and what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you.
Amen.
So I love that, and I thought that was such a good piece of emotion going into perspective. Let's talk about biology. Okay, so biology, we know genetics and hormones, all those types of things play a role in your emotions, right? I mean, how many of you have PMS sometimes, right? I'm going to raise my hand high. So again, hormones, we love them. So what factors into your biology? We've gone over this a lot today. Eat right. We know this. I'm just preaching to the choir of, wellness crazies right here, right? So eat right. But what happens is 40% of what you eat affects what? This big noggin. Okay? 40% of what you eat affects the brain. So super important for brain and for, chemistry and neurotransmitters. Exercise. Really important, right? Endorphins. How many of you guys see Legally Blonde? I don't know why I thought of this, but so she's defending this lady who's an exercise guru in LA, right? And she's on trial for murder, Reese Witherspoon, and she's like, no, she didn't do it because she exercises. And happy people, people are happy when they exercise, and happy people don't murder people. That was really fun. But true, right? So exercise and you won't feel like murdering someone. Rest and manage stress, reduce toxic load. So these are really important factors for chemistry that goes into your body and that you can produce in your body to produce positive emotions. Okay, so where do essential oils fit in this, right? I might need a drink of water. Okay, so essential oils, I had to make my own graph that I'm going to submit to my doctorate book. So essential oils, right? Aromatic compounds, they affect your cognitions when you inhale them. How many of you guys have ever felt just like total bad mood? Inhale an essential oil and you're like, I can think positive now, right? And then it affects your neurotransmitters, your hormones, your genetics, absolutely. So there are 5 different pathways that are very powerful for affecting the brain. Take a picture of this and write these down. These are the most powerful pathways, okay? First, you've got your neural olfactory pathways through the nose. Inhale something and it goes right to your brain. How incredible is that? Access to the brain. So second, internal. That's going to be the gut. Anything you do to get into the gut, which is obviously going to affect the brain. Thank you for the water. You are genius. And then we've got neck pulse points. Thank you. So that's, when I say neck pulse points, some people are like, wait, where's that? I'm like, where your pulse is. If you don't know where that is, you might need to see the doctor. So right here, pulse points take blood right to your brain. Excellent spot for the essential oils. I rub them on here. That's basically my main path of delivery because it's easy. Okay, that was good. Let's hope it doesn't fall. Okay, next is occipital points. The occipital is on the back of the neck. It's a soft spot. You can feel it between your skull and your spine. Do you feel that? Right by the brainstem. Excellent way to affect, again, just get it right up to the brain. And then the last is the reflexology point on the big toe. And that's right here on the bottom. Just put a little essential oil and you just have to kind of massage it in like that. You don't have to do acupuncture on it or anything. Just massage it right in. And this is a very powerful pathway. I have no clue how Chinese reflexology works. I wish we did, but I don't. So here's how I know it works. It's worked on me, but I also have a friend that, how many of you guys have used Intune essential oil? Bomb diggity, right? Bomb diggity. I just put it on before I came up here. It works so good for focus. I have busted out research papers with this thing. So I have a friend who has a little boy in school. He's in elementary, and he has been really struggling with focusing and attention in school. And so she said, what can I do for him? And I was like, well, duh, Intune. So we got her started with Intune. And what is inside Intune, this blend? Patchouli, frankincense, a whole bunch of amazing essential oils. But can a little kid in elementary go to school smelling like that sometimes? Kind of, might be a little funky for the kids. So I said, put it on the bottom of his big toe, see what happens. So she sent him to school that very first day, put it on the bottom of the big toe, then put his shoes on so he didn't smell like patchouli, like he was a hippie. And he gets to school, he does so well in school that day. When he comes home, he tells his mom, like, I was focusing, he's like, he was in this positive mood, and he's like, I did all my homework, he just couldn't believe how well it went for him. And the mom, they had forgotten. They both had forgotten they had put it on. They're like, really? Well, what was so different about today? And then both of them go, oh my gosh, we did that essential oil. Like, how cool is that? So that's how powerful just putting on the morning, on the bottom of the big toe, an essential oil for focus, send your kids to school or yourself to work. So there's top 5 oils that I find in research consistently for the brain. Doesn't mean there's not others that are really useful, but when I look across the board and I'm looking at memory and focus and attention and behavior and mood, 5. What do you think the first one is?
Frankincense.
Ah, yes, of course. Our king of oils, frankincense, right? What do you think the next one is?
Rosemary.
That's a good one, though. Rosemary is really close, but it didn't make the list.
Pepper.
Queen of oils. Lavender. Queen of oils, yeah? Miss Queen Bee. So we've got frankincense king and lavender the queen of oils. Those two are pretty much across the board for research studies on brain stuff. Okay, the third one, what do you think? These are all really good ones. They are all in research, I'm hearing.
Orange.
Citruses, orange, yeah, citruses. The limonene content in citruses are found pretty much across the board, even for anxiety. You think of citruses as uplifting mood, but it's actually really good for anxiousness as well. Okay, 4th. Yes. Haha, you're good. I heard it right off the bat. Michelle, I can't see very well. Yeah. So Lang Lang. Lang Lang is pretty much across the board as well for helping with anything, especially with behavior. It causes harmonizing in the brain. And then lastly, I just gave it to you, Clary Sage. Okay? Because I pushed it on accident real quick. But also, it's a hard one. Why do you think Clary Sage? Clarity, yeah. What does it affect? Hormones, hello! And that affects a lot of things with the brain. But they also find Clary Sage in research studies for memory. Isn't that interesting? It helps with memory, which doesn't really tie directly into hormones. So when we look at emotional aromatherapy, we see we can put them on us, inhale them, and they affect and change our moods, and they can affect and help us think more positively and cope. So Lang Lang is really good, like I said, at harmonizing. It's good with focus and attention. It does so many things. Research actually did a study on it with people with ADHD and found that it increased focus and attention. And then when you get that one combined with, what do tree oils do? Grounding, right? So what is vetiver? It's not a tree, but it's a long-rooted grass. It's a long-rooted grass, vetiver is. It's super, we call it like very thick, but it helps, like they actually plant it around houses on hills to keep that hill rooted. So when you combine different essential oils and you get emotional aromatherapy, look at this. You get this oil called Peace. Do you know what else Peace has? It has King of Oils, Queen of Oils, Clary Sage. It has like all those top ones that I mentioned. So this is a great one anytime you want to feel the emotions of what? Peace, right? Easy one. What I like about this Peace Oil, I use this all the time. I teach on Sundays, this little Sunday school class of like 10 6-year-olds. I'm like, seriously? Anyway, they are adorable but rowdy. And I use my Peace Oil. I have a little roll-on bottle, and it's a trick. This is what you do with your kids, because they love the oils. That's what's so cool. I'm not bribing them with candy. I'm totally bribing them with oils. I'm like, if you can be reverent for just like 30 seconds, I'm like, I'll put this Peace Oil on you, because obviously I want to put the Peace Oil, and they're so cute. Okay. And then it's a trick. I put the Peace Oil on, make them do? Yeah, they're like totally peaceful, and I can actually teach a class. So they're great. So this is a good one to use for your 6-year-olds. Okay, citruses. What are the characteristics of citruses? When you look at citruses, what the color? What does it look like? Bright, vibrant, right? They're amazing. So citruses, what are they going to help you do? This is an easy way that you can learn how to use emotional aromatherapy. You don't have to know all the science. What do citruses help you do? Yeah, feel bright and vibrant, uplift you. Anything to do with just upping your mood, citruses are great at that. They're going to help you motivate and help with helping you feel cheerful. I'm going to tell you a little story about a lady that I worked with. She came into my office. It was actually, I worked in a school in San Diego, in inner city, and I did a lot of suicidal ideation for our teenagers. Well, she was an older woman, walked into our school. Her husband had worked for our school as a janitor, and his name was Bob. He had died a year earlier. We missed him. He was the sweetest guy. He was a Vietnam vet and just did such an amazing job. He's happy. Well, this was his wife. And that morning, she'd been missing him. He died a year ago. And she had actually gone on a drug addiction with methamphetamines for the last year since he died. Just really missed him. That morning, she woke up and decided she was going to end her life. She just said, I can't do it. I miss him. She's having a drug problem. And she had this really strong thought. And she came in and told me, she said, I know it was from Bob. I don't care if you judge me. I know the thought came from Bob. And the thought said, go to the high school where he used to work. I mean, obviously it came from, I mean, who else would, I mean, it's just amazing. So she walks into my office. It's not normally, we don't just see people walk in, but we put her in my office, and I was talking to her, and she was just like, I don't know where to go. I have this thought that came to me right in the morning. I was going to actually take my life. And I came in to see you. And of course, I'm like a suicidal ideation expert. So we sit down. First thing I do, because I'm seeing she's twitching and really going through some withdrawals. So I grab my citrus essential oil, I grabbed wild orange. I did a drop in her hand. I had her inhale it, and I watched her body just calm down. I watched her look at me and just be able to speak more positive and have tell me about her suicidal plan, and she agreed to a safety plan. She agreed to get help, and she absolutely just like changed her life around that day. It was just amazing to see that the essential oils can affect emotions so deeply, it'll cause you to make decisions that will alter your life, and I love that about essential oils. Let's talk about... Next, spices. So I'm going to teach you an easy way to know what spices do for your body. What are spices naturally when you eat them? What do they do to your mouth? Fiery, right? Flavorful, spicy, right? So what are they going to do? What are they going to help you feel? Fiery and spicy and uplifted, right? And just motivated and passion. So that's what I like about the emotional aromatherapy. You don't have to know all the science, but just applying what you already know about the herbs. Like, I forgot who just her name because I'm on stage and can't think very clearly right now, but just spoke and said that like lemongrass. Plants actually have characteristics that tell you what they're for. Like walnuts. What do walnuts look like? The brain. Hello, good for the brain. So passion and what do you call them, spices are really good for spicing up your life and putting that passion back in. And here, I'm just going to end with this story here, but I want to show you. For those, how many of you have not ordered yet the emotional aromatherapy kit? Oh, okay, good. There's a few of you here. You are going to love this. It's like the one kit I carry around with me all the time in my purse. It's my perfume. I love it. It is amazing. So they have in here this little wheel that you just saw, and that wheel shows you which oils do what. There's an oil called Forgive and Console. But it shows you which emotions. If you're feeling angry or bitter, you can pull on the Forgive. If you're feeling disappointed and sad, you can pull on the Cheer oil and just put it like pulse points. It's wonderful. It's so amazing that these things can affect our emotions. So I want to share with you one last story. I work with many therapists and psychologists. And this lady, she's a psychologist up in Canada. And she started using the essential oils, this emotional aromatherapy packet, in her practice. And this is Dr. Barbara Wood. She's an amazing therapist for trauma.
She had a guy who had been a first responder on an accident and basically had to wait until more responders got there to help with the traumatic scene there. Well, that trauma really caused a setback for this person in their life. They had a really hard time getting over it and processing it, and just it was a near-death experience. So in one of their sessions, just a few weeks ago, she said, when he came in, she said, hey, why don't you smell these oils and see which one you're drawn to. Let's just see. And he said, I kind of like the passion oil. So they said, okay, just put it on the side. So they had passion there. So they're going through what's called exposure therapy, where you start to expose a little bit of the trauma to help them process it and not go back into that traumatic state, basically. And during that, he actually did go back into the traumatic state, could smell the blood again. His whole brain was like there, and she was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so she grabbed the passion oil and gave him a drop in his hand. She said he inhaled it, and for about a minute just sat there, just breathing it in. But his whole body, she watched his tremors calm down, and all of a sudden he looked up at her and just said, what did you just give me? He said, it's like it brought him back to the present. He could think more clearly. He said, you know what it reminded him of? Cinnamon is in there, right? It reminded him of drinking hot cocoa with his family. Interesting, huh? It brought him out of that traumatic state. They were then able to process the emotions. It's such a great tool. It's like what we call a pattern interrupt. When if your kid's having a tantrum, just get a pattern interrupt, get the oil. If you're having a traumatic memory or moment, get an oil for your pattern interrupt. This is crucial. So last thing I want to end on here on this slide. How many of you have heard of Occam's razor? Yeah, okay. It says that usually the simplest solution is correct. And I found this, Occam's razor, prior to the 20th century, it was commonly held belief that nature itself was simple, and that simpler hypotheses about nature were thus more likely to be true. Aren't essential oils like your simplest solution? The easiest things you can pull on for your brain health, for your emotions, for your entire body health, the mind-intestine connection. Absolutely. And I believe this with all my heart. We are meant to use these essential oils that are put here from our most talented, ingenious physician ever, our creator. So thank you so much, everybody.
All right. So we made it. What did you guys think? It was an amazing day and a half. It was an amazing day and a half. So before I close